All right, this is lesson 8 in chapter 5, factoring linear expressions. Yes, we skipped 6 and 7, and we will go back to them in the next 2 days. So I am on page 415 for those of you with your binder at home. Our real world link is about a yard sale. A rectangular yard is being separated into 4 equal size sections for different items at a yard sale. The area of the yard is 8x plus 12. How can you find the area of each section of the yard sale? Well, if it's divided into 4 equal sections, you would take 8x plus 12 and divide it by 4. Now, when you do this, all right, remember your terms that we talked about last chapter. So you have an 8x, so 8x divided by 4 is going to give you 2x. And then 12 divided by 4 is going to give you 3. So you still have left 2x plus 3 as your factored expression. So you could rewrite this as pulling that 4 out. And then you had the 2x plus 3 left over. Now this should look like the distributive property that we did a few lessons ago. And if you would check it, 4 times 2x is 8x and 4 times 3 is 12. It takes you right back to what we originally had. All right, moving on to the next page. We have some vocab. A monomial is a number, variable, or a product of a number and one or more variables. So if you look here, you have 25x, 40x are your monomials. Not monomials are the ones that have an addition or subtraction. So these are like your terms, basically. But it also includes your multiplication in there as well. To factor a number means to write it as a product of its factors. And you just factored in that real world link an algebraic expression by pulling out the 4. So what you need to know is what is the greatest common factor to be able to pull that out of your expression. So let's take a look at that first. A couple different ways you can do greatest common factor. One of the ways is to make lists, and that's what they have done in 1, 2, and 3, and then just seeing what they have in common. You can also do factor trees. So if you look at number 2, I'll do a factor tree for both of those. You had 18a, so we'd separate 18 and a. A is by itself. 18, you'd have 2 and 9. 2 is prime, so we're going to circle that. And then we'd have 3 and 3. So for 18a, you'd have 2 times 3 times 3 times a as your factors, prime factors. And notice it's the same thing that was right here. Okay, so for 20ab, you would separate 20a and b. A and b are by itself, so we can circle those. We have 10 and 2. 2 is prime. 5 and 2 are prime. So we'd have 2, 2, 5, a, and b. And then I always think of marriage ceremonies. What is the same? What can get married? So a 2 and a 2 get married, and an A get married. So those are the only 2 things that you have in common. So 2a is your greatest common factor. All right, so once you can do your greatest common factor, you can pull that out of your algebraic expression and write it in factored form. So in this case here, you have 8x plus 4y. They noticed 4 was the greatest common factor, so they pulled that out, and they had 2x plus y left over inside. All right, so let's go down to 4x minus 28. So 4x, you would have 4 and x. 4 is 2 and 2, so that's 2 times 2 times x. For 28, you'd have 7 and 4. 4 is 2 and 2, so 2 times 2 times 7. So in common, I see a 2 and a 2, and a 2 and a 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 is your greatest common factor. So if we pull that out, you still have your minus in the middle. If we pull 4 out of 4x, we only have x left over. And if we pull 4 out of 28, you would have 7 left over, because 28 divided by 4 is 7. So this would be your factored form. Okay, let's look at E. 3x and 33y. So you have a 3x, both of those are prime, 33y, 33 and y is prime, 3 and 11, both of those are prime. So 3 times x and 3 times 11 times y. The only thing I see in commons are the 3's. So we're going to pull that out. 3x divided by 3 is just x. 33y divided by 3 is 11y. And there's your factored form. Right, and there is a word problem here. They're just asking you the drawing of a garden at the right has a total area of 15x plus, sorry, I thought that was highlighter, 15x plus 18. Find the possible dimensions. So they are factoring it. And they're saying 3 was the greatest common factor, so that could be one of the dimensions, and then what was left over was the 5x plus 6 feet. That could be the other, because if you would multiply those together, it would take you right back to the 15x plus 18.